You ever watch your life shrink aisle by aisle? I used to be the guy people liked working with. I knew how to slice deli ham paper thin, could stack a sandwich like a magician, and had a dumb talent for combining hot case leftovers into meals that actually slapped. Chicken tenders chopped into mac and cheese, mini tacos dipped in ranch and Tabasco, that kind of thing. But that was before Melanie. We dated for over a year, mostly quiet nights and lunch breaks in the walk-in cooler when no one was around. I loved her. She was sharp, direct, the kind of woman who could balance the deli budget with one hand and shut down a rude customer with the other. But love doesn't always stay fresh. She got promoted. I didn't. And somewhere between her new name tag and my third late rent notice, she stopped looking at me like I mattered. One day she just cooled off. We broke up during a 10-minute smoke break behind receiving. I thought we'd cry, we didn't. After that, things curdled. She'd correct me in front of other staff, assign me to night shifts with no support. HR said it wasn't retaliation. Just a scheduling gap, they claimed. Fine, whatever. I started avoiding her, which was easy at 12 a.m. I worked alone. No more talking. No more weird tension by the meat slicer. Just me, a mop, and whatever was left in the hot case. I started eating more. Not because I was hungry, because it gave me something to do. Old jalapeno poppers, cold rotisserie bits, expired cheese cubes left for sampling. Management warned me, don't eat what's marked out. But I didn't care. That food and I had something in common. We were both past our expiration date. There's this thing about shame. It makes you do dumb stuff. That's how I ended up ordering a frozen pizza from my own Walmart on the app under the name Nico Ramirez. I used a throwaway email. I told myself it was a joke. Something about buying from the place that paid me felt pathetic. I picked it up during break around 12:10 a.m., hoodie on, head down. Self-checkout was empty. I scanned the shelf, grabbed the pizza, and walked out like a ghost. I took it back to the van. My sad little aluminum coffin behind the garden center, under that flickering light that never got fixed. I had a camping stove and a mini pan. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. I cooked the pizza the lazy way. Half-frozen crust, bubbling cheese. Took a bite mid-scroll through Reddit and immediately gagged. The texture was off. I spit it out. The cheese had pulled away from the slice like wet skin. I flipped the top back, and that's when I saw them. Maggots, small and writhing, buried under the mozzarella, like they'd been sealed in. I dropped the slice, ran outside the van, and threw up next to the bumper. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Rotten. Like you. Attached was a photo of me, sleeping, slumped in the van, mouth slightly open, my vest crumpled next to me like shed skin. I looked around the lot. No one. Just empty spaces and quiet humming from refrigeration units. My heart started sprinting. I showed the store manager the next day. Security shrugged. Cameras glitched that night. Power loop issue, they said. HR nodded, wrote things down, and told me they'd follow up. They didn't. But Melanie looked at me the next shift, just a flicker, cold and clinical, and I knew. Or I thought I did. After the pizza incident, I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was scared to eat, paranoid. I kept checking my sandwiches, cracking open sealed snacks to make sure nothing squirmed inside. My stomach turned at the smell of melted cheese. I tried to be logical. Maybe it was a freak accident. Maybe the picture was old. Maybe someone else found it funny. But it didn't feel random. Melanie always knew how to sting without leaving marks. That was her gift. I'd once seen her make a coworker cry without raising her voice, and now I was unraveling. I started talking to myself more, whispering questions out loud. What if she did it? What if she's watching? What if she won't stop? My coworkers noticed. They kept their distance. I asked to transfer, begged really, and by some miracle, it went through. A 40-mile bump to a location in Delano. New building, new boss, no Melanie. I left that Walmart like it was on fire. I thought that would be the end of it. But some nights, parked behind a different store, under a different buzzing light. I'd find myself staring at the food I just microwaved. Just staring, waiting for it to breathe or blink or crawl. I never saw maggots again. Not really. But I smelled them, or thought I did. My body flinches first. My stomach gurgles. My throat tightens like a noose. I wake up gagging in the middle of the night, sweating through my shirt. Sometimes I wonder if the pizza was ever real. But I know it was. The new store wasn't bad. Bigger crew, better lighting, fewer shadows. But I wasn't the same guy who used to crack jokes over the intercom or invent weird nacho recipes during lunch. I kept to myself. People assumed I was shy. Fine by me. No one asked about the van and I didn't volunteer. I lived off vending machine crackers and protein drinks now, factory sealed only, but the ghosts still followed. A month after transferring, I found a sticky note on my dash. No name, no message, just a grease stain shaped like a smiley face. Coincidence? Maybe. But when I went back in for my shift, someone had written "spoiled" on the whiteboard over the deli prep station in dry erase red, my least favorite color. I didn't report it. What would I say? Someone might be emotionally harassing me across counties. They'd nod, scribble a note, and then go back to ordering more turkey breast. That's the thing. When you don't have proof, your fear becomes your prison. No locks, no bars, just you and the constant knowing that someone, somewhere, wants you to rot from the inside out. I learned to live with it, like spoiled leftovers in the back of the fridge. You don't touch them, but you never forget they're there. These days I work the overnight truck shift. Just boxes and beeping scanners. No hot case, no deli. No reason to talk to anyone unless I want to. Sometimes I still see her, Melanie, in dreams mostly. Sometimes just her eyes. Other times a smile forming behind the deli counter, lips moving, but no sound. I still don't know if it was her. And that's the part that keeps me up. I never got closure. No confession, no gotcha moment. Just silence. Corporate indifference. And the smell of rotten cheese seared into memory. So I check everything I eat now, 3 times, sometimes 4. I check locks twice before I sleep in the van. I always park under a light, always face the cameras, even when I know they don't work. Because somewhere out there, someone smiled when I gagged on that pizza. And the thought of that, it still makes me sick. Cruelty doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers through small actions, silent sabotage, and well-timed neglect. When institutions fail to investigate or protect, victims are left questioning their own sanity. Believe people before the leftovers go bad, because by the time the rot surfaces, the damage has already been done. My name's Eli. I've worked at Cafe Mayweather for almost 3 years. It's not glamorous, but it pays enough to cover my film classes and rent. And honestly, it's a good kind of predictable. I know which customers will ask for oat milk, who tips in coins, and who always forgets their punch card. That morning started like any other. The regulars came in with messy hair and half-buttoned coats. A dad bribed his daughter with a muffin to behave in the stroller. A couple studied a crossword in silence. Then she walked in. She looked tired in a way you don't fake. Hoodie pulled over greasy hair, dark crescents under her eyes, a diaper bag hanging from one shoulder. A baby slept in a front carrier on her chest. A little boy trailed behind her, clutching a dinosaur toy. She gave a weak smile and ordered a small latte. Nothing fancy. Then a minute later, she came back up to the counter, tapping her fingers nervously. "Hey, I'm really sorry to ask," she said, voice low. "But could I leave them here just for a minute? I need the restroom and..." I looked at her, really looked, the panic sitting just under her skin. "Yeah," I said. "Of course, I'll keep an eye out." She whispered a thank you and disappeared toward the back. I wasn't nervous at first. The baby slept on peacefully, chest rising and falling against the carrier. The boy sat quietly at a corner table, kicking his legs against the bench seat, humming something tuneless. Then I saw him. He came through the door like any customer would. Calm, clean, carrying nothing. Late 30s, maybe. Collared shirt, neatly tucked. His eyes scanned the room briefly before landing on the boy. He smiled, walked over, and leaned in close. "Hey, buddy," he said, soft and smooth. "Uncle's here." I froze. He didn't look at me, just reached down toward the baby carrier, like it belonged to him. "Thanks for watching them," he said casually. "I'll take them now." It was a blur, but something inside me lit up. Something cold and sharp. The hairs on my neck stood up. I stepped forward, keeping my tone flat. "Do you have ID?" He chuckled, like I was being ridiculous. "Who carries ID to get coffee?" I smiled, tight-lipped, and turned toward the espresso machine. My coworker Sam stood there, drying mugs. I gave him our silent code, the one we used for emergencies. A thumb swipe across the counter, slow and deliberate. "Could you stay right here for a second?" I said to the man. He shifted, one hand still near the baby's head. "No need," he said. "I've got them." But then, like a jolt of lightning, the bathroom door opened. She appeared in the hallway, scanning quickly, and then stopped. Her eyes locked on the man beside her children, and her whole body changed. Number, get away from them," she screamed, full volume. Her voice cracked from somewhere deep in her chest. She rushed forward and grabbed both kids, pulling the baby into her arms and grabbing the boy by his jacket. The man didn't say a word. He didn't even try to explain. He just backed away slowly, hands raised like she was the problem. That's when she turned to me, breathless, shaking. "That's not their uncle," she whispered, eyes wet. "That's my ex. I have a restraining order. He's not supposed to be anywhere near us." Sam locked the front door before the man could exit. Another customer had already called 911. She sat in the back room with the kids. I brought her a glass of water and she was sobbing, rocking slightly. "I didn't think he'd find us here," she kept saying. "He's been gone for months. I thought we were safe." The police arrived within 10 minutes. They took statements. The man was calm, unbothered. He denied everything, but the officers had seen this before. The restraining order came up in the system. He was taken into custody. She stayed another hour. We let her breathe. I wiped down tables in silence, too jittery to do much else. She left with a friend who came to pick her up. The next morning there was a folded note taped to the register. "You saved my kids. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't stopped him. Thank you. Truly." It was written in pencil, with shaky lines. No signature. I read it twice, then stuck it behind the espresso machine where no one would throw it out. Since that day, I've never let anyone leave a child without checking first. I don't care how polite someone seems or how many family terms they use. Uncle, aunt, family friend, none of it means anything without proof. I think about her sometimes. The way her voice cracked when she screamed. The way she held her babies afterward, like the whole world had tried to snatch them away. And I think about how easy it could have been to say yes, to not ask questions, to assume. You never think danger looks so normal, so polished, so calm, but it can. And that moment, those 10 seconds between suspicion and confirmation, they matter more than we think. Never let politeness override instinct. When it comes to the safety of others, especially children, ask questions, slow things down, and trust your gut. Not everyone who smiles has good intentions. Real heroes aren't flashy. Sometimes they're just the ones who ask for ID. There are some people you expect to live the rest of your life never hearing from again. And honestly, most days I was grateful Aaron was one of them. Then his name popped up in my inbox. It was a Facebook message. No frills, no subject line, just, "Can we meet?" Just once. My stomach nodded like it used to before I threw up before school dances. I stared at the screen for a good 10 minutes. I clicked his profile, new name, Different city, barely any pictures. Same eyes, though. That charming, narrow-lidded stare I once would have trusted with my life. We hadn't spoken in 10 years. Not since that night in senior year. Not since the hospital. Not since I woke up with a cracked rib, blood in my mouth, and silence thick enough to choke on. No police report, no confrontation. He vanished. I heard rumors that he dropped out, that he moved west, that he blamed me. I typed, "Where?" He replied minutes later, "Mel's, Saturday night, out by Crestwood." Of course, neutral ground, quiet, halfway between nowhere. I told myself I was going for closure, but deep down I think I was still chasing an apology. Mel's looked exactly like you'd expect an old highway diner to look. Faded vinyl booths, a jukebox stuck on 90s country, and a waitress who didn't care much for small talk. The kind of place where eye contact is rare and stories get left in the parking lot. I got there early, ordered a coffee and tried not to fidget. My fingers tapped the ceramic mug too much. I hated that I still cared how this played out. He showed up 20 minutes late, same confident walk, same crooked grin, still wiry, maybe a little grayer around the temples. Wearing a hoodie and jeans like we were back in college, like time hadn't hardened me and worn him out. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Hey." It started fine, surface level. Shared jokes, stories about mutual friends we'd both lost touch with. We laughed a little, and for a moment it was like being 20 again. But I could see it, in the way he didn't hold eye contact too long, in the way his fingers twitched near his glass every time the past crept too close to the surface. He ordered a beer, then another. I stuck with coffee. "You remember that night at the cabin?" he asked at one point. I nodded, my hands clenched under the table. He laughed. "Man, we were so dramatic back then." I didn't laugh. It didn't take long for things to sour. The more Aaron drank, the bolder he got. He started revising history like it was some drunken story we told ourselves differently now. Said things like, "We were just kids, man," and "You really blew that whole thing out of proportion." I felt heat crawl up my neck. My jaw clenched. "You think I blew it out of proportion?" I asked. My voice shook, but I kept it low. Aaron looked away, chewing his lip. "Look, you made it sound like I tried to kill you. I was drunk. You were yelling." I snapped. "It was one moment." "One moment that sent me to the hospital," I shot back. He sighed. "You don't think you provoked it? You always acted like you were better than everyone. Always pushing me." I blinked. "You think I provoked you into beating the hell out of me?" My voice rose with every word. The table next to us fell silent. He leaned in. "You told people I was a monster. You disappeared." His eyes narrowed. "Because I knew what people would say. You made sure of that." I stood. So did he. People stared. Someone near the counter took out their phone. "You ruined my life with your version of that night," Aaron snapped. "And you got to walk away like nothing happened," I said, shaking. The manager came over, hand raised, voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, I'm going to have to ask you both to leave." We didn't argue. We just walked out. Two men, a decade of silence, and no resolution between them. I didn't even know the video existed until one of my students showed me Monday morning. "Is this you, Mr. Miles?" Blurry footage. Shaky hands. My face, red and tense. Aaron's voice, unmistakable. The words, "You ruined my life," echoed over cheap speakers in front of 30 wide-eyed teenagers. It made local rounds, one of those diner drama clips that people love to dissect. The school board wasn't thrilled. They called it a distraction. I was asked to take a leave. Unpaid, of course, for the sake of stability. Aaron deleted his socials. I never responded to the post, never gave a statement. What would I say? That I wanted closure and got humiliation instead? Mel's became something I saw every time I drove out past Crestwood. The place where I tried to finally speak my truth and got swallowed by it instead. People say confrontation brings healing. That closure is something you can carve out with words. They don't tell you how often it just reopens what never healed. Sometimes I drive past Mel's. Not intentionally, just reflex, I guess. It's always quiet now, still open but thinner crowds. I don't go inside. I just look at that booth, second one by the window, and wonder what would have happened if we never met again. Or what would have happened if he'd said, "I'm sorry," and meant it. Or if I'd stayed in the hospital bed that night and told the cops everything. I don't know. Some silences are necessary. Some are cowardly. Others, they just hang between two people for years, slowly turning into rot. Aaron and I will never speak again. And I think we both knew that the moment we sat down. We came looking for peace. All we did was dig up bones. Some chapters aren't meant to be reopened, especially if both authors refuse to admit what they wrote. Not every reunion brings healing. Sometimes the past demands silence, not closure. If you ever drive through Hollow's End, don't blink. You'll miss it. It's the kind of place that looks frozen in time, except time kept going and left it behind. The only grocery stores got flickering lights and expired milk. Half the storefronts are boarded up. The rest sell lottery tickets, off-brand soda, and dust. We moved here in 2012, after Dad's factory in Pittsburgh shut down. He didn't say much when it happened, just packed our stuff and told me to help him carry the microwave. Mom cried quietly when she thought we couldn't hear. My little sister Lily kept asking if we were going on vacation. She didn't understand what losing everything really meant. I was 15. I understood too much. We ended up in a 2-bedroom duplex that smelled like mildew and regret, parked near the old train yard. Dad tried day jobs, warehouse, repair work, whatever was going, but nothing stuck. Mom picked up shifts at Mel's Diner, the only place open past 8. That left me to walk Lily home from school, make her boxed mac and cheese, and wash her bed sheets when she wet the bed again. I didn't fit in at Hollow's End High. Too scrawny, too quiet, too Pittsburgh. They called me city boy like it was a slur. I had asthma, old sneakers, and a head full of fantasy novels. My only escape was scribbling stories in a torn notebook I kept in my backpack, pages fraying at the corners. And then came Tyler Briggs. When Tyler noticed you, it wasn't a good thing. It meant something bad was about to happen. He smiled at me once, not friendly, just that kind of grin that says, "I've picked you." And everything changed. It was a Thursday when Tyler called out to me, "Hey, Pittsburgh, you ever seen The Trestle?" I was standing by my locker, flipping through an old copy of The Hobbit. He said it like we were friends, like we were equals. His gang circled him. Kayla, with her raccoon eyeliner and sneer, and Mitch, the silent mountain who followed him around like a guard dog. They all stared at me like I'd passed some invisible test. "Want to come after school tomorrow?" Kayla said, popping her gum. "We bring beer. Do dares. Bet you won't jump." The Trestle was Hollow's End's worst-kept secret. A busted-up railroad bridge stretching 30 feet over Blackwater Creek. Rotting wood, rusted rails, and maybe 4 feet of dirty water below. The older kids used to party there, sometimes jump off. A few broke bones. A kid lost his foot in the 90s. But stories fade, and kids are stupid. I didn't know what to say. Part of me screamed no, the smarter part. But the rest? The lonely, humiliated part that ate lunch alone and prayed to disappear. That part wanted in. Tyler slapped me on the back. "Cool, you're in." That night, I could barely breathe. Not from the asthma, from the weight of maybe belonging. But the next day, Wes Holloway cornered me after 6th period. Most kids called him Gremlin or Trash Rat, but I knew he was smarter than any of them. He tinkered with broken phones, sold fixed radios online. Poor like the rest of us, but meaner in a quiet, broken way. He grabbed my arm. His eyes were wild. "Don't go. I heard him talking. Tyler said someone's gonna get tossed, said it's a joke, it ain't." I stared at him. "You think they'd pick Mitch?" he asked. "Or Kayla? You're the new chew toy, Mercer." He let go and walked off. And that night, when I stood at the edge of the woods and heard that cruel laughter echoing from the trestle, I ran. They ignored me after that. Tyler's crew, I mean. Like I didn't exist anymore. Kayla tossed a crumpled soda can at my head in the hall. "Oops," she smirked. Mitch shoulder-checked me into a locker and kept walking. I thought maybe they'd punish me worse for not showing. But indifference cuts deeper than bruises sometimes. Then came Noah Carter, skinny, awkward, stuttering Noah. He wore old man sweaters from Goodwill and smiled like he was apologizing for it. He transferred in 2 weeks after the trestle night, and Tyler found him. First it was fake nice. Tyler helped him pick up books he'd dropped. Kayla linked arms with him in the cafeteria, whispering things that made him blush. Mitch loomed behind him like a friendly shadow. It was the same pattern. I knew it. One day I saw Noah trip in the hallway, face slamming hard against the floor. Blood. Laughter. Kayla with her phone out filming. He laughed too. A weird, forced chuckle like he thought it was part of some twisted game. And I stood there, watching, fists clenched, saying nothing. 2 weeks passed. Leaves turned red and gold, falling like old memories across the tracks. Then came the tape. Yellow police ribbon stretched across the path to the trestle. A cruiser parked near the brush. Rumors flew faster than truth in Hollow's End. Noah was missing. 2 days later they found him, half buried in the mud under Blackwater Creek. Neck broken. The sheriff said it was an accident. Kids partying, he slipped. Happens. At the memorial they put a photo of Noah on his empty desk. A candle. Some dumb poem printed off the internet. Wes sat next to me in the back row. He didn't cry. He just handed me a folded piece of paper and looked away. Inside it said, "Saw him that night." Tyler dared him. Said water was deep. Noah believed him. I threw up in the boys' bathroom. Because that should have been me. By spring, Tyler was gone. His house was empty, windows boarded up. Word was his parents skipped town. Foreclosure papers fluttered in the breeze. Kayla tried to stay queen bee, but without Tyler, the throne was empty. Mitch transferred out. The crew unraveled. And me? I disappeared in a different way. No more friends to lose. No more hope to cling to. Except Wednesday. We started eating lunch behind the gym, where no one bothered us. He taught me how to fix busted speakers, old radios. We sold stuff online, stashing the money in a coffee can under his bed labeled Get Out Fund. We didn't talk about Noah much, but we always knew. Some nights I sat by the creek, notebook in hand. I wrote stories where the quiet kids got powers, where the weird ones lived, where the bridge never took anyone. Years passed. I got out, journalism degree, a job in Philly, writing pieces nobody reads about towns nobody visits. One Tuesday, a postcard showed up on my desk. It was a picture of a greasy motorcycle, parked in front of a garage with the sign Wes's Custom Works. On the back, just one line. Still think about Noah. We got lucky. I stared at it for a long time. My phone buzzed beside me. Still wrapped in the cracked case Wes fixed back in 10th grade. Some kids don't survive the fall. Some kids never make it off the trestle. And some, they crawl out bloodied but breathing. Sometimes the ones we ignore are the only ones telling the truth. The need to belong can blind you to danger, but real friends don't come with conditions. Listen to the quiet voices. They're often the only ones trying to save you. My name's Dylan Pierce. I was 30 and working the overnight restock at the Walmart Supercenter in Flagstaff. I liked the quiet hum of empty aisles, the rhythm of unpacking boxes beneath flickering lights, and the sense of peace at 3 a.m. when the world outside was asleep. That was until I met her. It was December 4th. Around 3:12 a.m., I rounded the corner of frozen foods, case after case of ice cream and veggies, and saw a little girl. She wore a faded purple jacket that looked too warm for indoors and clutched a worn teddy bear. She stood alone, frozen like she belonged there, face solemn. I froze, felt an immediate knot of dread. She tugged on my vest, small hand, timid. "I can't find my mom. Can you help me?" Her voice wasn't a hallucination. It was soft, scared, real. "Of course," I said, crouching level with her. She sniffed and nodded, blue eyes wide under fluorescent glare. I radioed my supervisor, telling them I found a child by frozen food. When I looked up again, she was gone. One moment she was there, the next she stepped into aisle 19 and disappeared into the darkness between shelves taller than my head. I ran after her, heart in my throat. But the aisle was empty, silent except for the overhead AC hum. No teddy bear, no footprints, just emptiness. I brushed off the adrenaline as a misunderstanding. Maybe she sneaked off with her parents, but I couldn't shake the chill in my bones. That night, loneliness settled in the cold concrete floor, because something about that little girl felt wrong, and I was already too deep. The next night, I stayed late, even after shift ended, just walking frozen food aisles to clear my head. It was after 3 a.m. when I saw her again. That same purple jacket. She stood across the ice cream freezers, only in peripheral vision. I turned fast, blinked. She vanished. Each night at approximately the same time, I'd sense someone watching, tiny footsteps scuffling behind me, a whisper of fabric. I never caught her on camera. Our store's security coverage skipped dead zones, backstock areas, corners behind the extra freezer units, places too remote to justify a camera. My coworkers started noticing my tension. One night I was found in the pet aisle, whispering to thin air. I don't remember doing it, but I said something. I'm sure of it. They said, hallucinations from exhaustion. So I slept less, worked more. I ran scanner checks with trembling fingers. Every frozen case threatened to freeze me in my tracks. Then instability started leaking into my life. I lay awake catching breath in the darkness, staring at the ceiling. My dreams were always that little girl's face, silent, ignoring the refrigerator lights. Eyes pleading help me, but no one there to hear. Weeks passed. My anxiety escalated, so I searched the store's shared drive to see if there were reports of lost children or incidents. Among delivery logs and inventory mayhem, I found it. A 2012 incident report marked confidential, no staff notification. A 7-year-old girl named Maddie Ray Daniels had gone missing near the expired goods freezer. Security found her dead behind that very corner. Hypothermia. No announcement. No alarm announcement. Just a pocket file nobody talked about. My heart froze. That was the spot. Aisle 19. Behind the freezer I passed nightly. I printed the report pages, hands shaking so bad I nearly dropped the photocopied sheets. Maddie's name stared back at me. A face, tiny and pale. My stomach clenched. I wanted to laugh, or cry, maybe both. How could they bury that? How could they leave a child to die in a silent corner while the store stayed open through the night? I showed it to my supervisor. She looked torn. That was years ago. Corporate said not to. But I saw her, I said. My voice cracked. She nodded slowly. We'll escalate it, she whispered. I couldn't sleep after that. Sleep was betrayal. It let time pass while she remained trapped. So I went back. I walked to the frozen food corner by aisle 19. The freezer's hum sounded unnatural, deeper, heavier. My flashlight came out. I shoved boxes aside, shone the beam where she had stood. The air grew, colder. My breath condensed at chest level. My light flickered. I felt a presence behind me, a whisper in intimate proximity. You promised you'd help me. I spun. Nothing but cold air and the echo of my heartbeat. I whispered back, I promise. I'll help you. The store intercom crackled. Someone called my name. Reality intervened. I left. Every step dragging with guilt, fear, exhaustion. That night, I packed up my things, submitted resignation the following morning. Weeks later, life outside those doors felt hollow. But the nightmare didn't end. One evening I had to return for dog food. I passed through again, heart thudding. I almost convinced myself I wouldn't see her. But at aisle 19, I caught sight of a little girl in a purple jacket clutching a teddy bear. I froze. She smiled at me, soft, sad, then walked away. I stood there, chest tight. My promise hung in the fluorescent air. Compassion demands action, even when no one else believes. Silence about tragedy doesn't erase it. Listen to the voices that whisper in the margins. Some children, especially those long gone, wait for someone who'll keep their promise. Help can transcend life and death, and a silent apology in the cold may be the only thing that brings peace. They told me I'd notice her eventually. I was barely 2 weeks into my new waitress job at Sunny Skillet when Gina, one of the older waitresses who'd been there longer than some of the kitchen pans, nodded toward booth 6 with her chin. "See her? That's Dorene. Wednesdays. 2 black coffees. Always the same." I followed her gaze. A woman in her 50s sat there, posture perfect, purse perched on the vinyl beside her like it had its own seat. In front of her, 2 steaming mugs, one held between her weathered fingers, the other untouched. "She waitin' on someone?" I asked. "Nope," Gina said, popping her gum. "Never has. But don't ask. She's harmless, tips well, and doesn't need us poking around." So I didn't, not at first. Every Wednesday, 3 p.m. she came in, sat in booth 6, ordered 2 coffees, stayed for maybe 45 minutes, eyes drifting to the door like clockwork every time the chime rang. The second cup always went cold. She never looked sad, but she never looked happy either. Just waiting. After a while, I started saving her booth when I was on shift. I made sure the coffee was hot. I stopped pretending I wasn't curious, and I started wondering, who was that second cup for? It was late spring when I finally asked. A storm had just passed, and the cafe was nearly empty. The air smelled like wet grass and burnt toast. Dorene was there, like always, booth 6. Her hands cupped around one mug while the other cooled, untouched. I was wiping the counter when something just made me do it. I grabbed the fresh pot, walked over, topped her off, and softly said, "Expecting someone today?" Her eyes snapped up to mine, wide and panicked. I instantly regretted it. She opened her mouth, then shut it. Her chin trembled. Then she started to cry. Not loud or messy, but silent, tear after tear crying, like her body had been holding it in for years. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I didn't mean—" "No," she said quickly, voice shaky. "No, it's okay." She wiped her cheeks with a napkin. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Eli, my son. He got out about 3 months ago. I hadn't heard from him in years. Then I got a letter." She reached into her purse and pulled out a creased envelope, running her fingers over the handwriting like it was sacred. He wrote, "Maybe I'll find you again. Wednesdays still work." That second cup? It was for him. I couldn't stop thinking about her. That night I sat down with my laptop and wrote a blog post. Nothing dramatic, just honest. I changed her name, called her M, said she was a woman who waited every week for a son she might never see again. That the second coffee stayed full. That hope could fit inside a porcelain mug. I posted it on Medium, went to bed, thought maybe 10 people would read it. By noon the next day it had over 40,000 views. The cafe's phone rang off the hook. Someone from the local paper wanted to interview the woman in booth 6. Instagram pages reposted it with captions like, "Heartbreaking story in a small Georgia diner." Hashtags trended. TikTokers made sad montages using photos of old cafes and piano covers of pop songs. People started showing up. Not for the food, not even for the story, but for her. Some took photos near her booth. Others sat in it when she wasn't there, hoping she'd arrive. A few left $2 under their coffee like they were part of something bigger than themselves. And the worst part? Dorene didn't know. Not yet. The next Wednesday was chaos. By 2:30, we had a line of people out the door, all murmuring about the coffee lady. One group of teens brought a ring light. A woman in yoga pants asked if we sold merch with her quote on it. I didn't even know which quote she meant. I kept checking the door, heart thudding. At 3:05, Dorene walked in. She froze. Her face, usually so composed, collapsed into quiet panic. Her eyes scanned the crowded diner, phones, cameras, whispering. Someone actually gasped when she walked toward booth 6. Then she turned. Didn't sit, didn't speak. She just walked back out the door. I chased her outside. "Dorene, wait, please." She stopped on the curb, eyes brimming. "You told them?" she asked. Not angry, just broken. "I didn't use your name," I said. "I didn't think it would. I was just trying to." Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to be a story. I just wanted to wait." Then she was gone. She never came back. I waited the next Wednesday, and the one after that. Booth 6 stayed empty. For a while, people kept asking. Then it faded. The internet moved on. The viral blog got buried under the next tragedy of the week, but not me. I never deleted the post. I added an update. I said she'd stopped coming. That sometimes when you shine a spotlight, all you do is blind someone who never asked for attention. We still keep her favorite booth open on Wednesdays. We still brew 2 black coffees at 3 p.m. Some weeks, someone leaves $2 beneath the second cup. I never see who, but I always hope it's him. Not every act of kindness needs an audience. Sometimes the quietest hopes are the most sacred, and turning someone's private pain into a public spectacle only steals what little peace they have left. Let people wait in peace. Let stories stay theirs. When I moved to Richmond, I wasn't chasing dreams. I was running from disappointment. A breakup that left me hollow. A lease I couldn't afford, and a job market that seemed allergic to resumes. I landed the overnight shift at Walmart almost by accident. The posting said, "Returns Associate, immediate start." I applied at 2 a.m. during a bowl of cereal and got hired 2 days later. Night shift had its perks. No crowds. No corporate nonsense breathing down your neck. I liked the routine. Clock in at 10 o'clock, sort refunds, restock, and answer the occasional question about expired coupons or where the rice cookers were. It was simple, predictable, safe, but predictable gets lonely. After months of talking only to coworkers, my cat, Olive, and whatever customer returned an air fryer at 3 a.m., I gave in to the boredom and downloaded PairUp, a dating app. One of those newer ones with little voice prompts and cute compatibility quizzes. I wasn't looking for a soulmate, just a reason to smile between shifts. That's where I met Nathan Riddle. He was kind, a little shy in his messages, but thoughtful. Always asking how my night was. Said he worked late hours too, doing freelance design. His profile pic showed a guy in a dark hoodie with a crooked smile. Not model handsome, but soft. Normal. We messaged for 3 weeks straight. No pressure, no weird pickup lines. Just casual banter and silly memes. He even joked once about showing up at Walmart just to surprise me. I laughed it off. I wish I hadn't. I saw him the first time by self-checkout. It was just past 1:45 a.m. on a Saturday. We were dead slow. 3 carts in the entire store. I'd just finished restocking bins behind the service counter and was stepping out to get a water when I caught someone standing by the clearance rack. He wasn't shopping, just standing. Gray hoodie, hands in his pockets, smiling directly at me. And it was him, Nathan. My heart hiccuped. That moment where your mind tries to convince you it's a coincidence. Maybe he lives nearby. Maybe it's not him. Maybe it's just someone who looks like... He raised a hand. Just a little wave. Not dramatic, like we'd been expecting each other. I didn't wave back. I turned, went behind the counter, and tried to swallow the sudden lump in my throat. When I peeked again, he was gone. I didn't sleep when I got home that morning. I sat at the kitchen table, Olive curled by my feet, staring at our old message thread on PairUp. Wish I could see you in real life sometime. He hadn't asked where I worked. I never mentioned it. I unmatched him, deleted the app, told myself maybe I'd overreacted. Maybe he just got lucky. Maybe I posted a photo in uniform once and he figured it out. People are curious, right? But then the notes started showing up. The first was under my keyboard at returns. You looked tired last night. Long shift? The handwriting was small, neat. Black ink on a yellow post-it. I didn't tell anyone right away. I wasn't sure what to say. But when I got back from break the next night and found a still warm cappuccino at my station, caramel swirl, no sugar, exactly how I like it, I knew I wasn't imagining things. I finally told my shift lead, Amanda. She raised an eyebrow, sipped her Diet Coke, and said, "Yeah, that's odd. But customers get weird sometimes. You sure it wasn't someone just being flirty?" "I never told anyone where I work," I said. "Not online, not on the app." Amanda shrugged. "Cameras are up. If anything happens, we'll catch it." That was the end of the conversation. No follow-up, no offer to check footage. Just weird customer stuff. A few nights later, I walked out to the parking lot after my shift. The air was cold enough to sting. I was halfway to my car when I noticed something taped to the windshield. A single sheet of paper. I stopped, stomach already turning. I didn't want to look, but I had to. It was a screenshot, my old PairUp profile. Same photo, me in the sunflower hoodie, grinning in front of my fridge. But now, someone had drawn a heart around my face, red ink, like a Valentine. I ripped it off and locked myself in the car, hands shaking. I didn't drive home for almost 20 minutes. Just sat there, staring at the entrance, trying to see if anyone was watching. I filed a report with store management the next day. Then I went to the police. Walmart said the camera footage near the parking lot glitched that night. Of course it did. The police were sympathetic but honest. Without proof, they couldn't do much. Nathan's profile? Gone. Wiped like it never existed. I called out for a week, took Olive and stayed with a friend across town. When I came back, I transferred stores within a month. A new Walmart, new coworkers, new routine, but not a new me. The new store was fine, clean, brighter, less lonely. I told no one about what happened, but I couldn't shake the habits. Checking my car windows before getting in, glancing behind me while returning bins, starting and ending each shift with a quiet inventory of everyone who came near me. For a while, things were okay. Until 2 months in, I found a folded note between the stacked receipt rolls. "Still think about you, always." It was the same handwriting, no name, no fingerprint, just those quiet, awful words. I didn't tell anyone. Not that time. What would I say? That a man I matched with once, a man no one else could even verify existed, was following me across counties, leaving little whispers behind? The notes kept showing up. Every few weeks. Always short. Always placed where only I would find them. "You looked lonely. Miss our chats. Some things are meant to be." They weren't threatening. Not technically. Just close. Too close. Intimate in a way that felt invasive. I never saw him again. Not face to face. Not like that night by self-checkout. But I feel him. Like a phantom presence that never leaves. Like something waiting patiently for the right moment to reach out again. Now I work day shifts. I keep my phone number private. I don't post selfies. I don't date. I deleted every app that might lead someone to me. Olive and I live in a second-floor apartment with 3 locks on the door. I don't go anywhere without checking the rearview mirror at least twice. People tell me I'm paranoid. Maybe I am. But here's the thing. They weren't there. They didn't feel what it was like to be chosen by someone who never had your permission to care. Every now and then, a new associate will ask, "Why'd you leave Richmond?" I smile and say, "Needed a change." I never say the rest, that I was followed, that I still am, maybe. Because some people don't come charging out of the dark. They walk into your life slowly, carefully, like it was meant to be. Romantic interest becomes obsession the moment it ignores consent. Always trust your instincts. Protect your boundaries, even when the danger doesn't look dangerous. Because the scariest stalkers don't wear masks, they wear smiles. I didn't expect our small Denver cafe to become a drama scene, but life is full of surprises. I'm Claire, a literature graduate working coffee shifts and applying for editorial internships. My coworkers and I shared playlists during closing shifts, swapped book recs during the rush. It felt familiar and safe. That changed when Jamie arrived. Quiet kid, late 20s, covered in music tattoos, mostly sleeve and forearm ink. Dark eyes, soft-spoken. At first he was just that new guy, polite, helpful, a bit awkward. I smiled when he asked for my Spotify login. We bonded over post-rock and poetry. It was normal camaraderie. Then, one morning after a slow shift, a customer left a Google review. Jamie's drink was wrong. Service felt cold. Harmless, right? He took it to heart. He stared at my barista apron like it was lit on fire. He muttered under his breath, "They always like your drinks." "You're trying to make me look bad." I laughed it off his nerves. I told him, "It's just coffee, man. Customers have feelings." He nodded but didn't say more. He had dark circles under his eyes that week. Looked like he wasn't sleeping. Over the next few days, things got weird. One afternoon, I was deep into stacking muffins behind the pastry case. I caught him, phone tipped slightly, filming me. I confronted him. "Jamie, what are you doing?" He half lifted his phone. "Just some proof," he whispered. "Proof of what?" "Don't smile while you're doing it," he replied. I felt cold. What the hell does that even mean? He looked away. "They think you're perfect, but I see what you're doing." We didn't work for a secret society, but he was acting like we did, like I was pulling strings. I stepped away, felt my chest tighten. He mumbled apologies, said he'd delete it. I believed him, sort of. Then came the worst part. I'd dropped my bag behind the counter and gone to the back for a clean apron. When I returned, he was rifling through my locker, gloves on, rifling through my stuff like he owned it. "What are you doing?" I asked, shaken. He looked up, pale and rigid. "You laughed at me in my dream. I know what that means." By that point, I was a bundle of nerves. I took my locker combo off, removed valuables, set a coded padlock. That night, I texted my boss. "Jamie's crossed a line. I found him in my locker." The manager, Ben, was sympathetic, took me aside the next morning. I gave my statement. HR suspended Jamie pending investigation. But there wasn't enough to fire him. No threats, no violence, just weird and creepy. I came in that afternoon and he was gone. But his presence lingered. The silence behind the counter, the way the armoire looked. I'd walk in and half expect him to be there. Then I found his Reddit. I'd noticed an account, u/Jamie Writes, with threads about the perfect coworker he can't stand. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. When I looked, dozens of posts were dedicated to me. "Claire smiles too much. She's always judging. Maybe she's setting me up." He'd twisted daily details, my lunch order, my jokes, into malicious narratives. His followers responded, "She's undermining you. Call her out." One wrote, "He's a nice guy. That's obsession, not love." I messaged HR again. They blocked his access to internal systems, but Reddit, outside their reach. One afternoon, I started getting voicemails. Silent, 10 seconds, blocked number. I sat in my apartment, phone clutched, stomach plummeting. I ended up changing my number, deleting my Reddit profile, deleting old posts. Still, I couldn't stop checking u/Jamie Writes just in case. 3 weeks later, I resigned. I found a remote editing job, further from cafe familiarity, further from unanswered concerns. Ever since, I can only recall our last shifts in fragments, the hiss of the steamer, The soft clack of papers as he riffling my locker, the way he whispered in my dream. I don't know where he is now. He might have moved on, left the city, or maybe he's still out there, fighting his demons. I still check Reddit sometimes, but I've built new habits, something I call digital boundaries. No public presence. I use an alias. I don't connect my real name to online food orders or review sites. I lock the lockers tightly. I know I could have stayed, but sometimes walking away is what safety looks like. Trust your instincts, even when threats aren't obvious. Repeated intrusion, emotional manipulation, and stalking matter and deserve action. Boundaries aren't optional. They're essential to protect who you are and what you deserve. I never thought I'd be living in a van at 36, hidden in the far corner of a Walmart supercenter parking lot. But after the divorce and the catering business tanked, my options ran out. My name's Carmen Ruiz, and back then, my world had shrunk to the night shift, a locker, and a seat that reclined just enough to pass for a bed. It wasn't the worst setup. The lot cameras were decent. The store's Wi-Fi barely reached, but it gave me something to stream on my cracked phone. Most people didn't know, and that's how I liked it. Well, most people except Chad. He was the janitor. 50-something, greasy ball cap always pulled low, gray goatee stained from too much vending machine coffee. He never said much at first. Just nodded, maybe asked how the night was going. But then it started. I'd walk through the employee entrance, and there he'd be, mopping the floor like he'd been waiting. "You staying warm?" he'd ask. Or, "That coat of yours looks too thin for this weather." He always smiled when he said it, but not the kind of smile that made you feel safe. I tried to ignore him, kept to myself. I was too tired to make waves. Then one morning, after a particularly long shift restocking seasonal clearance junk, I walked out to my van and found a piece of paper tucked under my wiper. Handwritten in blocky, uneven letters, "You don't have to sleep out here. I've got heat." My stomach dropped. There was no name, but I didn't need one. It was Chad. That night, I parked 3 blocks away behind a closed bank and walked in with my hoodie pulled up. But he still found me. He always did. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just weird anymore, it was dangerous. I tried to downplay it for a while, told myself I was overreacting. He hadn't done anything, technically. Just some notes. Lingering glances. Standing too close when the break room was already empty. But it was the consistency that rattled me. I'd be clocking in and see him refilling soap by the sink, folding paper towels like a surgeon preparing for operation, always with that quiet, watchful look. "Rough night?" he'd ask, like we were friends. I kept replies short. "Yep, busy," or "fine." And I'd keep moving. Then he started noticing my clothes, noticing when I wore my fleece-lined leggings under the uniform pants. "Nice touch," he said once with a grin. "Bet that keeps you real warm." My skin crawled. I told my supervisor, Melinda, during our 5-minute check-in. She was mid-20s, overwhelmed, and always behind on paperwork. I could tell she didn't want the extra trouble. "Have you told him to stop?" she asked. "I haven't exactly invited it," I said. "He's watching me, leaving notes. It's not right." She sighed. "Okay, I'll talk to him. Just, let's not make this a whole thing unless it gets worse, all right?" That talk must have happened because 2 nights later, Chad didn't say a word. Just walked past me near the staff lockers, mop handle bouncing on his shoulder, face unreadable. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hunted. The break room was next to receiving, just beyond where the forklift guys parked their pallets. The door had always stuck a little, but that night when I went in for my midnight break, it clicked shut, louder than usual. I pulled the handle. It didn't budge. I pulled again. Nothing. The light flicked off. At first, I thought maybe the bulb blew. Then I heard it, keys jangling. Slowly, like someone taking their time. My hands trembled. "Hey! Who's out there?" I shouted. No answer, just that soft, metallic rhythm. Ch-ch-ch-ch. I started pounding. "Open the door! Open the damn door!" Seconds later, the door burst open from the outside. Tony from Dry Goods had heard me and yanked it open with a panicked look. There was no one in the hall. But the security camera outside? It was twisted to face the cinder block wall. That was the night I stopped pretending this wasn't real. The store changed after that. Not visibly. To most folks, it was business as usual. Stock the shelves, count the overstock, make it to payday. But to me, every creak in the building felt loaded. I started tracking where Chad was at all times. He never said another word to me, not directly. But I'd see him, just standing, watching. HR finally got involved after I filed an official complaint, citing the incident with the break room door, the turned camera, and the prior notes. Their response? "We'll conduct an internal investigation." 2 days later, I was called into the office. "Chad is no longer with the company," they said. No details, no apology, no police follow-up, just gone. I kept asking myself, what would have happened if Tony hadn't been there? If I hadn't screamed loud enough? If I hadn't already been scared enough to notice things? I knew the answer. Deep down, I think I always knew. My shifts felt longer after that. I barely ate. The cold seemed to seep into my bones no matter how many layers I wore. One night, in the middle of zoning aisle 7, I caught myself crying quietly, cans of beans blurring through my tears. I didn't want to be tough anymore. I just wanted to be safe. In January, I found a women's shelter on the edge of town. It wasn't perfect. 4 bunks to a room, strict curfew, but it was indoors, warm, and the doors locked from the inside. The first night I stayed there, I slept straight through for the first time in weeks. I gave my 2 weeks' notice the next day. Nobody asked why. Melinda nodded and said, "I get it." That was it. No one ever really acknowledged what had happened. Not to me. Not publicly. Chad became just another name scrubbed from the payroll system. A ghost in steel-toed boots. But I carried it. The fear didn't leave just because the name tag did. Even now, I still flinch when I hear keys clinking behind me. I always check store ceilings for cameras and make sure they're facing the right way. I never sit with my back to a hallway. That's just how it is now. You live through something like that, and the world never feels unarmed again. Some nights I lie awake in my shelter bunk, listening to the distant sound of footsteps in the hall, and wonder how many other women are out there, like me, holding their breath, hoping someone believes them before it's too late. Not everyone gets a Tony. Not everyone escapes before the door clicks shut. That's why I'm telling this. Because someone will read it at 3 a.m. in a quiet back room. Because maybe you felt eyes where there shouldn't be any. Maybe someone smiled too long, asked too much. Maybe you've doubted yourself like I did. Don't. Trust your gut. Keep records. Speak loud, even when they call it drama. Because the break room door should always open from the inside. And no one should have to scream just to be heard. Believe women when they speak. Silence is what predators count on. Indifference is what enables them. Real safety begins when we stop protecting reputations and start protecting people. Don't wait for a locked door to take someone seriously. I'd been working at the downtown coffee shop for 6 months when everything started to feel off. My name's Jaya. I'm 24, balancing barista shifts with evening design courses. The shop is a familiar hangout for students, freelancers, and influencers, pastel-walled, Edison-lit, steeped in vanilla and espresso. I liked the vibe. Friendly coworkers, familiar customers. It was simple, until Alex joined. He showed up during training, taller than most baristas, with a warm smile and better genes than mine. Charming, enthusiastic, double-tapped my Instagram feed by the end of shift 1. His texts were long, wallpapered with haha and emojis, but I shrugged it off. Friendly boundaries. I followed back to be polite. We chatted. He asked for coffee tips, watched me make drinks, complimented my latte art. On his first night shift, he gave me a hug at the end of service. I laughed. Need to tone it down, I said. Dude, you're new. He shrank back. I thought he understood. But I didn't know how much he didn't. The texts began after hours. Just saw your story. It spoke to me. Hey, you awake? 2:14 a.m. I feel like we connect. You make me feel less alone. I smiled at first, but answered carefully. Thanks, I'm sleeping. There are plenty of people here who care. Hey, I'm not available. But he'd send again at 6:30 a.m. Good morning. It wouldn't stop. His messages got longer. Confessionals. No one understands me like you. I pour everything into your presence. He'd ask about my weekends, scent, favorite coffee, like he was mapping me. Do you always wear grapefruit on Fridays? He texted. I deleted that one. Offline, it leaked into shifts. He'd show up 30 minutes early, hover near the break room until I arrived, sometimes stand behind me in line when I wasn't working. Ask, how are you sleeping? You look tired. I started nodding politely, avoiding eye contact. All the signs were flickering red. Too late. I blocked him on Instagram, deleted his number, thought it was done. Until break one afternoon. I peeked out the back door to smoke. Found him leaning on the dumpster, voice shaking. Why would you hurt someone like that, after everything I gave you? The world froze. His face was torn, pained. I felt nothing. Disbelief. I'm sorry, he whispered, but his breath smelled of cheap cologne and desperation. Leave me alone, I said, voice tight. Then I walked back inside. My hand shook behind the register. I told the manager, Alex, HR was called. Alex was fired 5 minutes later. But I didn't feel safe. He was gone, for one day. Then came the fake accounts. Guess who? Still thinking of you. Remember the mornings? I flagged them, blocked them, but they kept coming. HR said it wasn't illegal unless he directly threatened me or physically followed me. Legally fine, emotionally devastating. I deleted Instagram, not for attention, but for safety. I changed my route home, walked with my phone in both hands, checked alleys and cars. Night shifts became unbearable. If the door chimed at 2 p.m., I'd jump. I told no one. My roommates thought I was burned out. I didn't correct them. I dealt with the panic attacks alone. I quit the job 2 weeks later. Now I work freelance. I don't post photos of my life. My follower count stays low. I walk streets fully scanned. I delete notifications if they're late night. I think about Alex sometimes. Maybe he's okay. Maybe he moved on. Maybe he needed help. None of that excuses his behavior. I also think about boundaries. I wish I'd been firm earlier, told him flat out. But when kindness becomes expectation, when presence becomes possession, it's a warning. Now if someone looks too friendly too soon, I walk away. Not to punish them, but to protect myself. Kindness is voluntary, and withdrawing it isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. Boundaries aren't optional. Respect grows from consent, not presumption. When affection turns into ownership, it's time to walk away before kindness becomes a cage. I don't sleep much these days. Been that way since senior year of high school. Just this kind of constant buzzing in my head. Sometimes it's thoughts, sometimes it's nothing at all. But it's always there. Just loud enough to keep me staring at the ceiling till 3 or 4 a.m. That's how I ended up working the graveyard shift at the Lantern Grill, this run-down 24/7 diner on the edge of Brookfield, Missouri. It's wedged between a shuttered Shell station and a blinking motel that smells like mildew and regret. I'm 21, part-time student, full-time burnout. Community college felt like the only move after I crashed and burned freshman year at Mizzou. The Lantern isn't glamorous. Cheap tile floors, warped tabletops, buzzing fluorescent lights. But it's quiet at night. Usually just me, a mop bucket, and an old country playlist humming through the ceiling speakers. Some nights we get truckers passing through or kids looking for milkshakes after a concert. But most of the time, I'm alone. I keep my earbuds in, wipe the same counters twice, count the same $10 in tips, and try to convince myself I'm doing something useful. That Tuesday night started like all the others. I clocked in at midnight. Becky from the evening shift gave me a nod, and the cook in the back, Harold, was already half asleep in the supply closet. He always took extended breaks once the rush died. By 12:20, the place was empty, and then he walked in. Thin, pale guy, late 30s maybe. Sweat gleamed on his forehead even though it was freezing outside. No coat, just a faded gray hoodie and jeans that sagged off his frame. At first I thought he was a delivery guy. He didn't even look at me, just walked straight behind the counter like he worked there. Hey, I said, taking out one earbud. Can I help you? Nothing. No eye contact, no reaction. He moved toward the fridge, pulled it open, and grabbed a bottle of ketchup like he'd done it 1,000 times. Then, without hesitation, unscrewed the top and gagged into it. I thought I was seeing things. He hunched over like his stomach was turning inside out and started vomiting into the ketchup bottle. Not violently, but slow, controlled, like he wanted to make sure it all went in. I stepped back, hand half raised. Hey man, what the hell? Still no response. He screwed the cap back on like he was tightening a soda, then placed the bottle gently in the condiment bin beside the others. That's when I noticed his hands. Trembling, twitching, but precise. Like someone performing surgery on autopilot. He reached over, grabbed a plate from the stack, scooped a serving of fries, and squirted the tainted ketchup onto the plate. Not randomly either. He smeared it in slow, perfect circles, muttering under his breath. I couldn't make out what he was saying. It sounded like gibberish, or maybe a chant. A rhythm. Like someone reciting a recipe backward. I looked toward the back kitchen door. No sign of Harold. I grabbed the wall phone beside the register, tried to dial out, but the line was dead. Typical for our piece of junk landline. I considered grabbing my cell, but it was still in my backpack in the office. That's when I took a step forward. My voice was shaky. Sir, you need to leave now. He turned to me, eyes glassy, not mad, just vacant. It's not safe, he whispered. Not safe to leave food unfinished. Then, without warning, he reached into his hoodie and pulled out a box cutter. Didn't raise it, just held it at his side, blade open, arm shaking. My body froze. His voice barely rose above the hum of the lights. They come when the food's cold. You can't leave it cold. He took a step forward, and I bolted. I slipped on a patch of grease by the fryer and almost ate tile. My hand scrambled for the side door handle, and I burst out into the cold. Air hit my face like ice. I ran behind the building, heart pounding, legs shaky, and crouched behind the dumpster. Fumbled my phone out of my pocket, fingers numb, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a guy inside the lantern grill. He broke in or something. He's got a blade. He's not right. I peeked through the kitchen window. He was still at the counter, smiling now, humming, packing ketchup into to-go containers like he was prepping orders. Red streaks all over the floor. His hands moved in smooth motions like a machine. He's filling containers, I whispered. With that stuff, he threw up in the ketchup. Sirens wailed in the distance. Then, headlights. A Cisco delivery truck pulled into the lot. The driver slammed the brakes and jumped out when he saw me waving like a lunatic. The man inside must have heard the screech because he darted out the front entrance, screaming nonsense. The flavor's wrong. It's still wrong. The driver, big guy in a Carhartt vest, reacted fast, tackled him on the curb like a linebacker. The box cutter skidded into the parking lot. Cops arrived seconds later, guns drawn, EMTs behind them. They cuffed the guy who didn't fight, just kept mumbling about ingredients and preservatives. He was still humming as they lifted him into the ambulance. The cops questioned me for half an hour. I told them everything. One officer, older guy, must have known the town longer than I had, shook his head and muttered, "Damn. That poor bastard." "What do you mean?" I asked. He sighed. Name's Lenny Cortland. Used to work here. Maybe 2 years ago. Night shift. Good kid. Bit strange. But nothing dangerous. Then one night, boom. Total breakdown during lunch rush. Said the soda syrup was talking to him. Started throwing forks at the window. They fired him the next day. I blinked. No one ever told me. Probably didn't want to scare you off the job. Turns out Lenny had been squatting in an abandoned house a few blocks over. No family around, no meds. Slipped through the cracks like so many do. Becky joked about it when she came back in. You see the ketchup bottle? Wonder if he seasoned it. I didn't laugh. I threw it away myself, wrapped it in 3 layers of trash bags and buried it in the outside bin. I never told her about the smell, about how it lingered on the counter even after bleach. Something sickly sweet like rotten tomatoes and bile. I quit night shift 2 days later. Told my manager I had classes in the morning. That was half true. The other half was that I couldn't be in that building after midnight without feeling like someone was watching from behind the fridge. Like a shadow would slide out from the condiment bin any minute. I still eat out sometimes. Diner food, gas station burgers, late night Waffle House. Can't help myself. But I check the ketchup bottle every single time. I twist the cap, check the seal. Twice, just in case. Mental illness doesn't always wear a warning sign. The people we forget, the quiet, the odd, the discarded, don't disappear. They just go unseen. And sometimes they come back, not to hurt us, but because they were hurting the whole time. I always thought Harvey's Corner was a good place to start. Small town West Virginia, tucked in between a rundown car wash and a movie theater still playing films 2 weeks late. Harvey's was the kind of diner where old men drank black coffee at 6 a.m., and teenagers clocked in right after school, still in their sneakers and work uniforms from second jobs. For me, it was just supposed to be a summer thing. One last push before college, a way to earn enough to buy bedding, maybe a mini fridge. I wasn't aiming for glory, I just needed a paycheck. I was hired on as a dishwasher, nothing fancy. Scrub, rinse, repeat. Most days I kept to myself, headphones in when I could sneak them, smile small and quiet. I didn't want trouble, just hours. Tony was my manager, 36, ball cap always turned backward, sleeves rolled up like he was still a teenager himself. He called everyone kiddo or sweetheart, sometimes smacked people lightly on the shoulder or back as he passed. To the others he was chill, a guy who let you sneak out early if you had a date or covered if your drawer came up short. To me, he was off. Too close sometimes, always asking questions. You seeing anyone? What school are you going to again? You ever go to that bar on 9th? You could totally pass for 21. I kept answers short. Smiled when I had to, stayed late when asked. I thought if I worked hard, stayed respectful, I'd be left alone. I was wrong. It was a Sunday night in July, dead quiet, like most Sundays. I'd finished up dishes early and was refilling sanitizer buckets when Tony popped his head into the back. Closing's done, you coming with us? I blinked. Where? Bar on 9th, he said. Just a few of us. Chill night. You in? I hesitated. I'm only 18. He smirked. Pfft, no one checks. Come on, live a little. I shook my head. Nah, I'm good. Got an early start tomorrow. He held the stare a moment longer, then laughed. Your loss. They left 10 minutes later. I finished up alone, locked up. My ID was still in my locker. I always left it there during shifts because the pockets in my jeans were too shallow and I didn't want it to fall into a sink. The next morning, I showed up early, still damp hair, nervous about an interview I had at the campus housing office after my shift. That's when the regional supervisor was waiting in the office with a clipboard and a tight frown. Rhea, she said, we need to talk. I sat down in the cramped back office with a stomach like wet concrete. There was an incident last night, the supervisor said. A minor traffic collision involving a vehicle driven by someone who claimed to be you. What? They used your name, your driver's license. The police report's already on file. But I wasn't there, I said quickly. I went straight home. She raised an eyebrow. Your clock-out time shows 11:14 p.m. The report was filed at 11:21. My voice cracked. My ID was in my locker. I didn't give it to anyone. I wasn't even with them. The room was cold. Her tone never changed. Unfortunately, until this is sorted out, we're placing you under investigation. We have to follow protocol. Check the cameras, I said. You'll see I left alone. You'll see someone take my... She cut me off. The security system glitched. No footage was saved from last night. I left the office shaking. My hands wouldn't stop. I texted 2 of the girls I'd worked with. No reply. No one met my eyes that shift. Tony didn't show up. Not that night. Not the next one either. When I tried to call, it went straight to voicemail. It wasn't until Thursday that someone broke the silence. Madison, server, 20, with chipped red nails and an attitude tougher than steel wool, found me on break in the alley behind the diner. "Hey," she said, lighting a cigarette. "You still under review?" I nodded. She looked both ways, then pulled out her phone. "Don't show anyone I gave you this." It was a short video, shaky, grainy, taken from a staff member's phone. Showed Tony opening my locker, pulling out my ID, laughing with a buddy in a black hoodie. "She won't even know," he said. "She's a ghost in this place anyway." I felt like my bones turned to ice. Madison exhaled. "You're not the first." He used Jenna's name for a fake reference call last year, and he told Brittany he needed her info for a training log. Her name ended up on some account she didn't even know existed. "Why didn't anyone say anything?" I asked. She flicked ash off her sleeve. "Because no one listens to girls like us when we do." HR dropped the review a few days later. I never got an apology. I quit the next morning. What stayed with me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how fast everyone pretended like nothing had happened. Like the name on that ticket hadn't been mine. Like the job wasn't supposed to be safe. I lost my early dorm spot. I missed the deadline by 3 days. They gave it to someone else on the wait list. I moved in late, stuck in temporary housing for 2 weeks, then crammed into a triple that never stopped smelling like old ramen. Tony disappeared. Rumor was he moved to Ohio. Got a job at another diner. New name on the staff list, new batch of kiddos to joke with. I tell people I learned a lot that summer, but what I really learned was this. Sometimes the danger doesn't come from strangers. It wears a name tag. It smiles at you on payday. It tells you to live a little, and if you're quiet enough, polite enough, invisible enough, it takes what it wants and walks away. A job should never cost you your name. Trust is earned, not demanded. And silence isn't professionalism. It's just the sound of someone else's power echoing off the walls. Speak up, even when your voice shakes, especially then.